Welcome to Zain Soul Stories. Every day a new story, every story a new emotion, a journey of love, sacrifice, heartbreak, and hope. So sit back, relax, and let the story begin.
The morning air carried a melody that didn't belong to the gray streets. Aaron's voice rose above the clatter of footsteps and distant traffic, his guitar worn but still capable of producing something beautiful. He stood outside the cafe on 4th Street, the same spot he'd claimed for 3 weeks now. His fingers moved across the strings with muscle memory from another life, a life that felt like someone else's dream. Beside him sat his daughter, 7-year-old Mia, wrapped in a jacket 2 sizes too big. Her small hands clutched a paper cup, shaking it gently whenever someone passed. The coins inside made a lonely sound. She didn't complain about the cold or the hunger. She never did. That broke Aaron's heart more than anything else. No child should be this accustomed to suffering. No child should know how to smile through empty stomachs and uncertain nights. "You're doing great, Daddy," Mia whispered between verses, her eyes bright despite everything. Aaron's voice nearly cracked then, but he pushed through the chorus, letting the music say everything his words couldn't. Aaron hadn't always sung for spare change on cold sidewalks. 2 years ago, he'd worn suits to work, kissed his wife Sarah goodbye each morning, and tucked Mia into a bed surrounded by stuffed animals and fairy lights. He'd been a project manager at a tech firm, good at his job, proud of the life he'd built. They'd had a small house in the suburbs with a backyard where Mia would chase butterflies every summer evening. Then Sarah got sick. Cancer, the doctors said, aggressive and unforgiving. Aaron took leave from work to care for her, watching the woman he loved fade a little more each day. The medical bills piled up faster than he could manage, even with insurance. There were experimental treatments, specialist consultations, and a desperate hope that cost them everything. Sarah fought for 18 months before slipping away on a Tuesday morning, her hand in his, whispering that he had to take care of their baby girl. He'd tried. God knows he'd tried. But grief made him unreliable, and his job didn't wait. The house went next, then their savings. Now here they were, father and daughter, surviving on the kindness of strangers and Aaron's ability to turn pain into music. They stayed at the shelter on Maple Street most nights, when beds were available. Other nights they slept in his car, an old sedan that barely ran, parked behind the library where security didn't bother them. Aaron had sold almost everything, keeping only the guitar, some clothes, and Sarah's wedding ring, which hung on a chain beneath his shirt. The hardest part wasn't the hunger or the cold. It was watching Mia grow up too fast, seeing childhood slip through her fingers like water. She should have been in school, playing with friends, worrying about nothing more serious than spelling tests. Instead, she knew which restaurants threw out good food at closing time and which public restrooms were safest for washing up. Aaron finished his song, and a few people dropped coins into Mia's cup. She thanked each person with genuine sweetness that made some of them look away in shame. Pride burned in Aaron's chest, mixed with a crushing guilt. "Can we get something warm to drink, Daddy?" Mia asked softly. They'd made $11 that morning, enough for a modest meal if they were careful. Aaron nodded, starting to pack up his guitar. But Mia's hand suddenly gripped his arm, her whole body going rigid. "Daddy, wait," she whispered, her eyes locked on something through the cafe window. "That lady in there. I know her." Aaron followed his daughter's gaze. Inside the warm, golden interior of the cafe sat a woman in her mid-30s, wearing a professional blazer, her dark hair pulled back neatly. She was alone, staring at her laptop while sipping from a large mug. Something about her profile tugged at Aaron's memory, but his mind felt foggy, clouded by exhaustion and the relentless focus on survival. "Who is she, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Mia's face scrunched up in concentration, the way it did when she was trying to remember something important. From before, she said finally. From when Mommy was here. She came to our house. She made me laugh. The words hit Aaron like a physical blow. Recognition crashed over him in waves. Rebecca, Sarah's best friend since college. They'd been inseparable once, Rebecca and Sarah, sharing everything from secrets to dreams. Rebecca had been at their wedding, had held Mia as a newborn, had been woven into the fabric of their happy life. But when Sarah got sick, something had shifted. The visits became less frequent, the calls shorter. By the final months, Rebecca had disappeared entirely. Aaron had been too consumed by grief and survival to wonder why. Now, seeing her through the glass, sitting in warmth and comfort while his daughter shivered on the street, something hot and painful rose in his chest. Anger, yes, but also shame. He didn't want her to see them like this. Didn't want to face the pity, or worse, the judgment in her eyes. Let's go somewhere else, he said quietly, reaching for his guitar case. But Mia didn't move. She stared at Rebecca with an intensity that was unsettling in someone so young. She was Mommy's friend, Mia said, not a question but a statement heavy with meaning. Before Aaron could respond, Mia did something he never expected. She stood up, clutching her cup of coins, and walked straight toward the cafe entrance. Mia, wait, Aaron called, but she was already pushing through the door. Panic seized him. They couldn't go in there, not looking like they did, not smelling like people who bathed in public restrooms. But he couldn't let his daughter go alone. Grabbing his guitar, Aaron followed her inside. The warmth hit him immediately, along with the rich scent of coffee and fresh pastries. Conversations hummed around them. A few heads turned, eyes taking in their threadbare clothes and worn faces. Aaron felt exposed under the cafe's bright lights, every stain and tear on display. Mia walked directly to Rebecca's table, her small figure casting a shadow across the laptop screen. Rebecca looked up, annoyed at first, then confused. Her eyes moved from the child to the man standing behind her, and Aaron watched as confusion transformed into shock, then horror, then something he couldn't quite name. Aaron. Rebecca's voice came out barely above a whisper. Her face had gone pale, her hand frozen halfway to her coffee cup. Aaron wanted to turn around, to grab Mia and run, to pretend this encounter had never happened. But his daughter's small hand found his, squeezing tight, keeping him anchored. Hello, Rebecca, he managed, his voice rougher than he remembered it being. She stood up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Several customers looked over. Rebecca seemed to notice their audience, and a flush crept up her neck. Her eyes traveled over them, taking in every detail, the oversized jacket on Mia, the worn guitar case, the paper cup of coins still clutched in his daughter's hand. Understanding dawned in her expression, and with it came tears. Oh my God, she breathed. Aaron, what happened? Where have you been? The questions felt absurd. Where had they been? Everywhere and nowhere. Sleeping in shelters and cars, singing for coins, surviving day by day. But what came out was simpler and more cutting. We've been here, Aaron said quietly. Right here in the city. Same place we've always been. The implication hung between them. We've been here, and you never looked for us. Rebecca flinched as if he'd struck her. Her mouth opened and closed, searching for words. Mia, braver than both of them, spoke into the silence. You came to my birthday party when I turned 4. You brought me a stuffed elephant. I named him Mr. Trunk. The specific memory seemed to shatter something in Rebecca. She covered her mouth with both hands, tears spilling freely now. You remember that? She whispered. Mia nodded solemnly. I had to leave Mr. Trunk behind when we left our house. I think about him sometimes. Aaron's hand tightened on his daughter's shoulder. He hadn't known she still thought about her toys, about all the things they'd lost. She never mentioned them, always focusing on what they had rather than what was gone. Rebecca sank back into her chair like her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Please, Rebecca said, gesturing to the empty chairs at her table. Please sit down. Let me buy you breakfast. Coffee. Anything. Aaron's pride screamed at him to refuse, to walk away with dignity intact. But Mia's stomach chose that moment to growl audibly, and his pride meant nothing compared to her needs. They sat down, Aaron perching on the edge of his chair, ready to bolt at any moment. Rebecca waved over a server with shaking hands. Whatever they want, she said. Everything. Just bring food. The server looked at Aaron and Mia with thinly veiled disgust, but Rebecca's sharp tone left no room for judgment. When they were alone again, she leaned forward, her voice breaking. Aaron, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know things had gotten this bad. You didn't ask, Aaron replied, not cruelly, just stating fact. Rebecca absorbed the blow with a slight nod. You're right, she said. I didn't. And I should have. I should have been there. Her eyes found Mia's. I should have been there for both of you. The food arrived quickly. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, orange juice, and hot chocolate for Mia. Aaron had to stop his daughter from eating too fast, knowing her shrunken stomach would rebel if she wasn't careful. He ate slowly himself, trying to maintain some dignity while every cell in his body screamed for more. Rebecca watched them with an expression of such profound sadness that Aaron almost felt sorry for her. Almost. After Sarah passed, Rebecca began, her voice trembling. I tried to call you. Several times. But your number was disconnected. I drove to your house, but you'd already moved. There was a new family there. They didn't know where you'd gone. She twisted her napkin in her hands. I told myself you'd wanted space, that you'd reach out when you were ready. I told myself a lot of things to make it easier to stop looking. Aaron set down his fork. You could have tried harder. The words came out flat, emotionless. Rebecca didn't argue. You're right. I was a coward. The truth is, I couldn't handle Sarah's death. Rebecca's voice dropped to barely a whisper, her eyes fixed on the table. Watching her die destroyed me. And I know that sounds selfish when you lost your wife and Mia lost her mother. But Sarah and I grew up together. She was more than my best friend. She was the better half of me. Tears dripped onto the wooden surface. Those last months, seeing her in so much pain, so scared, I couldn't bear it. Every visit felt like drowning. So I started making excuses. Work got busy. I was traveling. I'd come next week. Next week turned into next month. And then she was gone. Aaron felt his anger waver slightly. He understood that kind of pain, the kind that makes you want to run from everything and everyone that reminds you of what you've lost. But understanding didn't erase what her absence had cost them. She asked about you, he said quietly. Near the end. She wanted to see you. Rebecca made a sound like a wounded animal, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Mia, who'd been quietly eating, reached across the table and patted Rebecca's hand with sticky fingers. It's okay to be sad, Mia said with the simple wisdom of children. Daddy cries sometimes too. He thinks I don't know, but I do. Missing Mommy hurts really bad. Rebecca grabbed Mia's small hand like a lifeline, holding on tight. You're so much like her, she whispered. So kind, so brave. She looked at Aaron, her face streaked with tears and mascara. What can I do? Please, Aaron, let me help. Let me do what I should have done 2 years ago. Aaron's first instinct was to refuse. They didn't need charity, especially not from someone who'd abandoned them. But then he looked at his daughter, really looked at her. The dark circles under her eyes. The way her collarbones were too prominent. The worn shoes that were already too small. His pride couldn't keep her warm at night, or put food in her stomach, or give her the childhood she deserved. I don't want a handout, he said carefully. But if you know anyone hiring, I'm a hard worker. I have experience in project management, but I'll take anything honest. Rebecca nodded eagerly, already pulling out her phone. I'm a partner at a consulting firm now. We're always looking for good people. But Aaron, that's going to take time. Background checks, interviews, processing. Where are you staying? Are you safe? Is Mia safe? The questions came rapid fire, her professional competence taking over. Aaron hesitated, then admitted the truth. We stay at the shelter on Maple Street when there's room. Otherwise, in my car. Rebecca's face crumpled again, but she visibly pulled herself together. No, she said firmly. Not anymore. I have a house with 3 empty bedrooms. You're staying with me. Both of you. Tonight. Rebecca, we can't just. Aaron started, but she cut him off. Yes, you can. Please. Let me do this one thing right. You need a safe place to stay, and I need to help the family of the woman I loved like a sister. We need each other, even if you don't see it that way yet. Mia looked up at her father with hope blazing in her eyes, and Aaron felt his resistance crumble. Just temporarily, Aaron said, needing to maintain some boundary. Until I get on my feet. I'll pay you back every cent. Rebecca shook her head. This isn't about money. But fine, if you need to see it that way to accept help, we'll work something out. For now, just say yes. Please. Aaron looked around the cafe, at the warm lights and full tables, then at his daughter who desperately needed stability. Okay, he said quietly. Thank you. Mia's face broke into the first truly carefree smile Aaron had seen in months. Rebecca wiped her eyes and laughed, a broken, relieved sound. Okay, good. Let me settle up here, and we'll go to my place. You can shower, rest, and we'll figure everything else out from there. As she went to pay the bill, Mia leaned against Aaron's side. Is it okay to be happy, Daddy? She whispered. The question shattered him. Yes, baby, he managed. It's always okay to be happy. But even as he said it, fear gnawed at him. What if this was temporary? What if Rebecca's guilt faded and they were back on the streets? Rebecca's house was in a quiet suburb, the kind of neighborhood Aaron and Sarah had dreamed of retiring in. Large trees lined the streets, and children's bikes lay scattered in driveways. Rebecca pulled into a driveway leading to a beautiful 2-story home with blue shutters and a well-kept garden. Aaron's car, which had limped behind them, looked like an eyesore in comparison. Inside, the house was tastefully decorated but felt somehow empty, despite the furniture and artwork. I'm not here much, Rebecca admitted, as if reading his thoughts. Work keeps me busy. Too busy, Sarah always said. She showed them to a bedroom upstairs with an attached bathroom. The bed was large and covered in a thick comforter. Mia stared at it like she'd never seen anything so wonderful. There's a smaller bedroom next door if you want separate rooms, Rebecca offered, but Mia's hand tightened on Aaron's. She still had nightmares, still needed him close. This is perfect, Aaron said. Really? Rebecca nodded, understanding in her eyes. Towels are in the bathroom. I'll find some clothes that might fit. They'll be too big, but better than, she caught herself. After Rebecca left, Aaron turned on the shower, watching steam fill the bathroom. He couldn't remember the last time they'd had hot water and privacy. At the shelter, you got 5 minutes in a lukewarm spray with a line of people banging on the door. Mia went first, and Aaron had to help her work the shampoo through her tangled hair. She giggled at the bubbles, sounding like the little girl she'd been before the world got hard. When it was his turn, Aaron stood under the spray until his skin turned red, scrubbing away weeks of grime and shame. He watched the water circle the drain, wishing he could wash away everything else as easily, the memories, the mistakes, the crushing weight of failure. When he finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that smelled like lavender detergent. He found Mia curled up on the bed in an oversized t-shirt, already asleep. She looked peaceful, her face smooth and untroubled. Aaron's chest ached looking at her. He dressed in the clothes Rebecca had left, sweatpants and a shirt that hung loose on his thin frame, and sat on the edge of the bed. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Rebecca stood in the doorway, holding two mugs. "Hot chocolate," she said quietly. "I remember you liked it." Aaron accepted the mug, surprised she remembered such a small detail. They sat in silence for a moment, sipping the sweet warmth. "I have so many questions," Rebecca finally said. "But they can wait. You both need rest." "I need to understand something first," Aaron replied. "Why now? Why help us now when you couldn't before?" Rebecca set down her mug, choosing her words carefully. "Honestly, seeing you today, seeing what my cowardice cost you both, it broke something open in me that I've kept locked away since Sarah died. I've been sleepwalking through my life, burying myself in work, avoiding anything that might make me feel the grief I've been running from." She met his eyes. "You asked why now, and the truth is, I should have been there all along. I can't change that, but I can choose to be present now, if you'll let me." Aaron wanted to stay angry, to hold on to his resentment like armor. But exhaustion had worn him down to something raw and honest. "I'm scared," Aaron admitted quietly. "Scared to hope this is real. Scared to let Mia get settled only to have it fall apart again. We've lost everything once already. I don't know if we can survive it a second time." Rebecca's eyes shimmered with fresh tears. "I can't promise nothing will ever go wrong again. But I can promise I won't abandon you. Not again. You're my family, Aaron. You and Mia. You're all I have left of Sarah, and I was a fool to walk away." The mention of Sarah hung between them, her absence a presence they both felt. "She loved you, you know," Aaron said. "Even at the end, she wasn't angry. Just sad that you weren't there." Rebecca's breath hitched. "I don't deserve that. I don't deserve her forgiveness or yours." "Maybe not," Aaron agreed. "But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is what we do from here." Rebecca nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "From here," she repeated. "I like that. A fresh start." She stood to leave, then paused. "Aaron, thank you for giving me this chance." The next few weeks unfolded like a dream Aaron was afraid to wake from. Rebecca was true to her word, immediately setting up job interviews through her network. She also enrolled Mia in the local elementary school, buying her supplies and clothes. Aaron watched his daughter transform before his eyes, her smile coming easier, her laughter more frequent. She made friends quickly, bringing home artwork and stories about her day. Aaron started working part-time at a warehouse while interviewing for positions more suited to his skills. The work was hard and the pay modest, but it was honest, and he took pride in every paycheck. He insisted on contributing to household expenses, and though Rebecca protested, she eventually accepted, understanding his need for dignity. In the evenings, Aaron still played his guitar, but now it was for joy rather than survival. Mia would dance around the living room while Rebecca watched with bittersweet smiles. But Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking on thin ice, that any moment it might crack and plunge them back into the cold reality they'd escaped. One night, about a month into their new arrangement, Aaron came downstairs to find Rebecca looking through old photo albums. Sarah smiled from the pages, frozen in moments of happiness. Birthday parties, college graduations, the day Mia was born. "I forgot I had these," Rebecca said softly. I boxed them up after she died. Couldn't bear to look. Aaron sat beside her, his heart aching at the images of his wife. She was so beautiful, he whispered, inside and out. They turned pages in silence, sharing memories. Rebecca laughed at a photo of Sarah covered in cake at her 21st birthday party. Aaron touched a picture of their wedding day, Sarah's face radiant with joy. I'm afraid I'm forgetting her, Rebecca admitted. The sound of her voice, the exact way she laughed. It's getting harder to remember. Aaron understood that fear intimately. Mia is helping me remember, he said. She has Sarah's eyes, her kindness. Every day, I see my wife and our daughter, and it hurts, but it also keeps Sarah alive. Rebecca closed the album gently. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Aaron nodded. The day Sarah died, I was supposed to visit. I was in my car, halfway to the hospital, when I just pulled over and sat there. I knew it was close to the end. You'd called me the night before, said the doctors were talking about days, not weeks. And I sat in that car for an hour, paralyzed. By the time I made myself drive there, she was already gone. Her voice broke completely. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell her how much she meant to me, how she made me better, how losing her would break me. I was too much of a coward, and I've hated myself every day since. Aaron felt tears on his own cheeks. She knew, he said firmly. Sarah knew how much you loved her. She told me once that you were the sister she chose, and that kind of love doesn't need words to be understood. Rebecca turned to him, desperate hope in her eyes. You really think so? I know so, Aaron replied. Sarah understood people in ways most of us never will. She saw past actions to intentions, past mistakes to hearts. She would have understood your fear, your pain, and she would have forgiven you, just like she would want me to forgive you. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Rebecca searched his face. Have you forgiven me? Aaron considered the question honestly. I'm getting there. You showing up for us now, giving us a home, helping Mia smile again. That means something. It doesn't erase the past, but it's building something new. Rebecca wiped her eyes. I don't want to just help you get back on your feet and then go back to how things were. I want to be part of your lives, part of Mia's life, if you'll let me. Something shifted in Aaron's chest, a loosening of the tight grip he'd kept on his heart. I think we'd like that, he said. Mia needs people who love her. And maybe I do too. Rebecca's smile was tremulous but genuine. We'll be a family then. An unconventional one, but a family. 3 months later, Aaron accepted a position as a project coordinator at a tech startup. The salary was enough to afford his own apartment, a modest place not far from Rebecca's house. When he told her his plans to move out, Rebecca's face fell, but she quickly covered it with a supportive smile. That's wonderful, Aaron. You've worked so hard. But Mia, overhearing the conversation, burst into tears. I don't want to leave. I love it here. Please, Daddy, please can we stay? Aaron knelt beside his daughter, wiping her tears. We can't impose on Rebecca forever, sweetheart. But Rebecca interrupted. It's not imposing. Your family. This house has never felt more like a home than it has these past months. Please stay. At least until you've saved more. Until you're really ready. Aaron looked around the living room, at the photos that now included recent pictures of the three of them, at Mia's drawings on the refrigerator, at the guitar that lived in the corner. This place had become home in a way he hadn't anticipated. Are you sure? He asked Rebecca. I've never been more sure of anything, Rebecca replied. You both brought life back into this house and into me. I was just existing before, but now I'm living again. You gave me that gift." Aaron felt something warm spread through his chest, something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Not the desperate, fragile hope of survival, but the solid, steady hope of a future worth building. That weekend, Rebecca suggested they visit Sarah's grave together. It would be the first time Aaron had been back since the funeral, too consumed with survival to afford the luxury of grief. They brought flowers, and Mia chatted to her mother's headstone, telling her about school and her friends and how Daddy smiled more now. Aaron and Rebecca stood side by side, silent tears falling. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," Rebecca whispered to the stone. "But I'm here now. I'm taking care of them, Sarah. I promise." Aaron took her hand and squeezed. "We're taking care of each other," he corrected gently. As they walked back to the car, Mia between them holding both their hands, Aaron felt Sarah's presence like a blessing. 6 months after that chance meeting at the cafe, Aaron stood in front of a small audience at a local community center. Rebecca had encouraged him to perform his music again, not for survival, but for joy, and had helped organize this showcase for local artists. Mia sat in the front row between Rebecca and some of her school friends, beaming with pride. Aaron's fingers found the familiar chords, and he began to sing. The song was one he'd written recently, about loss and pain, but also about hope, redemption, and the unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. As he sang, he looked at the two people who'd become his anchor, his daughter who'd never stopped believing in him, and the woman who'd found her way back when they needed her most. After the performance, as people clapped and Mia rushed forward to hug him, Aaron realized something profound. They'd all been broken in different ways by Sarah's death. But instead of staying shattered, they'd found each other and pieced together something new. Not a replacement for what they'd lost, but something beautiful in its own right. A family forged not by blood or obligation, but by choice, forgiveness, and love. And that, Aaron thought as he held his daughter close with Rebecca's proud smile warming him, was the greatest gift of all.